commence business.
Thank you, Clerk. It has been reported that quorum does exist for the Standing Committee on Public Enterprise and Monitoring Government Implementation to commence business. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Thank you. The MD of Ferries and the GPA and the senior management, the esteemed members of the two committees, that is the PEC and project monitoring, I want to extend a warm greeting to each and every one of you. It is indeed a great pleasure to have this meeting. But before I proceed further, I just want to inquire from the MDs. I haven't seen the presence of the board chairpersons.
Yes, good morning, Honorable Chair. The letter we received, the summons, it was not addressed to the board chairperson, so we did not inform him that he's supposed to appear, because it was the permanent secretary, Minister of Transport, the MD, GPA, and the General Manager, Gambia Ferries.
Okay, thank you. So far, if that is the correspondence, but normally our engagement with you, we channel it through the board chairpersons. So even if they are not mentioned, your comment here, the board chairpersons are very important. So next time we can consider that. Anytime you are coming, not only on presentation, reporting, but even if you have an engagement with us, we need to have them here. This is just a quick information. We invited you and the ministry, but the ministry is yet to come. But we are informed that the permanent secretary is on the way coming. Before we go further, he will be available. So we want to start in order to avoid wasting much time. As you may understand, this is a joint committee, the PEC and government monitoring projects. So we definitely need an update, a special update about the issue of ferry service and the proposed bridge Bara to Banjul. So this is what we want. But before we go further, I would like to have an individual introduction. Since this is a different committee, I will start with myself and my co-chair here. I'm Honorable Lamin Gesane, National Assembly Member for Brikama South, Chairman of the Standing Committee on Public Enterprise. I'm Honorable
Member of Woolly West, member of the monitoring committee.
Honorable Almama Jiba, PED committee, PED committee, Ponyi Council.
Honorable Abdullah Njai from Bani Central and a member of both committees. Assalamu alaikum everyone. My names are Honorable Tamsir Jam, Lower Nyomi constituency, and a member of the monitoring committee.
Good morning. Hello. Good morning. I'm Honorable Alpsensi, Sami constituency, a member of the monitoring committee.
Hello, good morning. I'm Honorable Keba Tumani Sane, National Assembly member for Pony Jarol, and a member of the monitoring committee. Good morning. I am Keba Kebaro, Combo South, and a member of our committee.
Good morning. My name is Honorable Samba Jallo, member for Nyamina Dunkunku, and a member of the PET committee.
Good morning. My name is Honorable Bileji Tunkara, Majority Leader and the Vice Chair of the PEC Committee.
Good morning. I'm Alhaji Omar Tal, Subject Matter Specialist for the PEC Committee.
Good morning. My name is Ibrahim Ajao, a clerk to the Public Enterprises Committee.
Good morning. My name is Usman Jabate, Managing Director, Gambia Port Authority.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning to everybody. My name is Abdullah Tabedo. I am the General Manager of the Gambia Ferry Services Company Limited. Thank
you. My name is Ismail Awada, Director of Finance, Gambia Ferry Services.
Good morning. My name is Francis Gomez, Director of Technical Service, Ferries.
Good morning. My name is Ajira Baji, Deputy Director of Safety and Compliance, Gambia Ferry Services.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Father Sanya, Director of Operations, Gambia Ferry Services.
Good morning. My name is Paul Jaitin. I am the Director of Commercial Services.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. Well appreciated. Can someone move a motion for us to adopt the agenda?
Good morning, Chairman. I rise to move a motion.
With amendment, huh?
Yes. Yeah. Telling from what? So with amendment, I move to adoption.
Any second now?
I rise to second the motion.
Thank you so much. MD and the team for both ferries and the GPA. The reason of calling this particular meeting is about the serious public outcries in respect to the ferry service at Banjul Bara, which is very alarming currently. And we met and discussed to invite you so that we can have a discussion around this thing. But not only about the ferry services, but the intended bridge of this particular area, Banjul Bara. So we invite you to come and give us an update. What stage are you in implementing the strategic approach you are doing in order to address this issue? So primarily, that is the main essence this time. So we will hear from you, but before I give the baton to you to give us an update, I will allow my co-chair to also throw lights on certain areas. Since this is two committees, one is very much interested about the service component that make you mandatory on us for you to report to us on an annual basis with regards to the service and the overall profit making for you to pay a dividend to the central government. So also there is a project component. That's why we have already invited, especially when you come to the bridge component. So he will elaborate in that dimension. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Co-Chair. I don't think I will say much because I already imposed myself in the view. You've said it all. This is a friendly conversation. I always tell when we call institutions to perform our oversight, it's always a friendly conversation. Friendly conversation premise around national processes that you are heads or custodians of. So it's not always like National Assembly call to expose deficiencies in various departments or to expose individuals. It's always a friendly conversation because what MD wants for this country is what I want for this country, and it's what every National Assembly member wants for this country. So let's open it as a very friendly conversation. Let's know the facts so that we can guide each other for proper operations of the ferries. And also, as he said, for my committee, we are very key with the bridge. It has been long overdue. What is holding on? Because the best solution for this corridor is the bridge. So we want to know how far is the procurement process as far as that the bridge is concerned. So thank you very much and welcome to this friendly conversation.
Thank you, Co-Chair. MD, the button is yours. Upon completion, I will open the floor for members to ask questions pertaining to these two areas. So on that note, you are at liberty to take us through.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and honorable members and subject matter specialists and members of the media. Just wanted to crave your indulgence, whether we can reorder the discussion and we treat the bridge issue first, because we can provide information that is available. Because it would have been prudent for the ministry itself to address that component. But the information that we have, that we may share, if that is in order, I would crave your indulgence to just start by informing the Honorable Committee what information we have pertaining to the bridge, if that is in order.
You are okay. I think that is in order. We can proceed.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Yeah, I just have an observation on the issue of the bridge. Since you said, okay, the PS is on the way coming, maybe we address the issue of the ferries. Maybe before they finish that one, the PS of Works himself will be around.
I'm just informed that the PS is just at the corner coming. So they can start. As far as we are concerned, when you come to the issue of ferries, the PS will elaborate. But whatever information they have, they can share with us, and the PS will take up from there and further elaborate it to our satisfaction. But once you are talking, I want you to get the mic closer to you so they can be audible. You have something?
I second what he said, because pertinently, we have a burning issue, that is ferry services. And I think we could not sift to bridge it. What I suggest, as what the member said, we have to be cognizant of issues that are at stake. So if you could deliberate on ferries, if it is done, then we can now kickstart the other aspect of bridging. But when we start bridge, and yes, we have a very pertinent issue, that is a national concern. I think my take with the member, let's work with the issue of the ferries. From there,
if I may comment very quickly, according to the agenda paper we have before us, this is ferry bias. So the bridge, in fact, discussion of the bridge could come as AOP. But if we are to go by the agenda paper approved by this very committee, means that we have to center our discussion cognizance to the procedures of committees. The bridge can come as AOP, but if you have to go by the approved agenda, we have ferries before us, and I beg the indulgence of the chairman for us to the line. Thank you.
Honorable Vice Chair, I think we have adopted the agenda with recommendations and with amendment. That amendment is where we are bringing these things, because they are related, seriously. We are talking about the ferry service that is managed currently, and they're going to report on that. But that is why we have already invited the ministry to also update us about the status of the bridging process. So if the PS is coming, I think it will be better. So first we'll deal with ferries. So it's also part of the agenda. Thank you so much. PS is around. Huh? Yeah. Thank you so much. Can the newcomers introduce themselves, starting with Sirif?
We are a newcomer.
You are a newcomer. You are a latecomer. I don't want to use the word late. That's why I brought a newcomer.
Yes, I will introduce myself and also start from there.
Your name, please.
Honorable Serif Sir, member for Joshua.
And which committee?
I'm a member of the two committees.
Okay.
Vice Chair monitoring.
Is it? You start coming late, I don't know.
I am Lamin Sis, a member for Care West constituents and a member of Public Enterprise Committee. Thank you very much.
Oh, wait first.
Good.
Yes.
Good morning, Honorable Chair and Honorable members. My name is Louis Moses Mendy, Permanent Secretary, Minister of Transport, Works and Infrastructure.
Thank you so much, PS and members. We really appreciate your comment. It's important. We have already started the procedures. We are about to go in for the presentation proper. But the essence of this particular meeting is to update us about the ferry service at Banjun Bara crossing point and the issue of the bridge. So like we have agreed, the ferries and GPA will update us about the current status of the ferry issue. If you have something to add, you can add. Then last one will go into the bridging of Banjun Bara crossing point. So you can update us on that. Then we want to start with the GPA and ferries. Yes?
Thank you very much, Chair. As for the norms of our sittings, I think affirmation of oath should be done before we proceed. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, he has flagged an important area that is before any dealing with these people, the affirmation of oath should be taken, but it also depends on the nature of what we are doing. Primarily, this is for them to come and update us so that we can have a frank discussion around these issues and come out with a strategic approach. But it's up to you. If we are in for them to be on the oath, we can still proceed, but that depends on you. I've thrown the yes? Yes.
Yes, alluded by the co-chair of Government Project Monitoring, is that this is just, let me use words, friendly discussion for us to avail us information vis-a-vis what's at stake. So basically, it's more of like an interactive engagement to update on the committee. And I'm of the belief, I don't want to jump before the gun, but probably there are some steps taken, overtaken by events. But however, when you go to the discussion proper, you'll avail us the opportunity of having an in-depth or insight analysis of what is really at stake. So basically, to agree with the co-chair of Works and Construction, let it be seen as more of friendly discussion to avail the committee's opinion. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Chair, he has flagged a very important area. For this one, as we used to do at the level of public enterprise, when we are not doing presentation and that of and consideration, we don't take affirmations. I'm not used to that on all times. But this is a matter that concerns public, and we expect matters to be reported as it is, and what are the challenges, what are the major problems, without any compromise. So the matter is also complex, and one could take an affirmation for it. It's as important as reporting a financial statement or any other thing.
What I want to add on, because the reason of taking an oath is to assure us that what is going to be said here is going to be the truth. So, and then we said it's a friendly discussion. So we believe that whether they take it or they don't take it, I think we expect them to tell us the realities.
Yes, for me, oath is something that is quite accepted. In as much as the co-chair said it's a friendly, there are no wars between SOEs or directors when they meet National Assembly members. But what we expect is the truth, nothing but the truth. So I second the issue of an oath. It will also build and give them confidence that whatever they are saying, it has to be in line.
Yeah, yes. I mean, I think when the floor was open, there were getting from the the one from point that we are here on the family the way out. Because these are burning issues that we must come up with a solution. Maybe what can we fix? What do we have any immediate solution for it? So I think these people are all gentlemen who stand in front of us here and tell us the truth. It's possible if it is the next level for it to happen. Fine, but I think it is yes.
Yeah.
And then move ahead.
Thank you very much, Honorable Vice Chair. I don't know how, what context are we taking this friendly conversation, which I laid the foundation. Friendly conversation does not mean that we should not take the truth. So I don't know. Friendly conversation doesn't mean we should not take the truth. We should not take the truth. So, let's go by what the standing order said about oath taking, and we go by that. But for me to say friendly conversation doesn't also mean people should to come and tell us something that's not true. So I think let him put to vote.
Okay, thank you so much. I think we are in agreement. Can we allow the clerk to go and administer this vote? PS and the two MDs, we want to you people to identify those who are going to do the presentation. Anybody who is going to contribute to the discussion can be on the oath.
Hereby affirm that I will speak the truth, all truth, but nothing but the truth. So help me Allah.
Thank you, MD. We can start now.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. Once again, I first of all would like to write on existing protocols that have been mentioned publicly and apologize to the general public and through you to your constituents for the disruption that the service may have caused to their socio-economic lives. It is not something desired, but it happened the way it has happened. To put it in context, the Kunta Ferry was already due for withdrawal for underwater repairs because this craft was commissioned in 2017, and since then it has never been out of the water for the underwater repairs to be done. Engines were changed once in between this 5 years that she's been in service, but it was due for dry docking so that the underwater areas that could not be accessed while she's afloat could be accessed. It happened that the plan was for Kanilai to be deployed to provide a minimal service in the interim. So the plan works for Kunta Kinte was to last for 6 weeks. New engines were procured, but there was a delay in the delivery of these new engines that were procured. So that all compounded to the delay in having the ferry dried up. As we speak, we gave a notice of about 6 weeks. That was around, if I remember the top of my head, late March, around 23rd or so. That after 6 weeks, she'll be put back in service. And we're in the 6th week now. And as of this morning, practically all the welding works are near completion. Only 2 bulwarks need to be welded on the ferry, anti-fouling paint applied, and then we're hopeful all goes well. Tomorrow morning by 8 a.m. She will be refloated. And after the refloating, the new engines will be installed. And after the commissioning and testing, she will be back in service. With Kanilai, developed also the same problems, technical issues, and it reached a point where management decided to withdraw her completely out of service. So the plan after Kuntekinte is redeployed, Kanilai will also be brought up at the shipyard. But with Kanilai, a whole re-engineering has to be done. The plans are to install new engines and propulsion systems that will be different from what they were, because Kanilai has a peculiar problem other than Kuntekinte. In terms of the engines that are used on Kanilai, they are MAN engines, and they are no more in production line. So the plans are to go for a new set of engines and propulsion systems that are more easier to maintain than the MAN, which are already out of production line. Going forward, we have entered into 2 separate contracts for 2 new green ferries, we call them. Green in the sense that it's not entirely solar powered, it's a hybrid. It uses solar and diesel batteries. So one is being funded by the African Development Bank through a grant funding of about $13 million US, and a procurement process was launched, international procurement. Diamond Shipyards of the Netherlands happened to be the sole and only bidder. And after the evaluation, the report was sent to the African Development Bank, and we had received a no objection to proceed with the signing of the contract, which was what happened sometime last week. In presenting the project proposal to government, anyway, if I may just remind the Honorable Committee that the grant funding is by African Development Bank, but according to the bank's procurement processes, there should be 15% counterpart contribution from the GPA. So the GPA is also providing funds of about 1.9 million euros thereabout as our own contribution towards the ADB component. Now, government, in considering the project for the grant, also GM will come with the exact denomination, because the project was quoted in US dollars because of the African Development Bank. They use US dollar, but the figure GM will confirm the denomination. But 15% of the 13 million US dollars, which is about 1.9 million US dollars, is the 15% counterpart contribution from the GPA towards the ADB component. Now, as I said earlier, the government, in considering the project, also gave instructions through cabinet, and the Ministry of Transport instructed the GPA that it's government decision to go for a second ferry. So the project is for 2 ferries, one funded by the African Development Bank. Then the second ferry is to be funded by the GPA through what we call a supplier credit arrangement with Diamond Shipyard, the shipbuilder, because that's the same financing mode that was used to procure Kuntekinte in 2017. It will be financed on the 20% or thereabouts down payment, and then the balance will be spread over biannual payments over a 5-year period. One peculiar advantage we have with this new arrangement is that there's going to be a maintenance contract built into the ferry project, which will allow us to have a resident engineer from the shipbuilder to be on site beyond the repayment period of the loan, because it is also in their interest to have a resident engineer to be on the ground, like normal staff working on a daily basis to see to the technical suitability of the ferry, so that she can be in maximum deployment to earn the revenue to pay back the loan. So that is one important feature that is in this project. One of the main challenges that ferries has been having also is the lack of a functioning shipyard. for dry docking facility. Because in marine technology, I think once every 2 years, these vessels have to be taken completely out of the water so that they can access the bottom hull and do the necessary scraping and replating or removal of this marine wood if there is any. So because the shipyard has not been functional for a long time, we had to resort to utilizing resources that we call marine airbags. These are big balloons that we can inflate, and the ferry will rest on them, and then we use a windlass and a winch to take her out of the water. So it was a novelty in our operations to have Kuntakinte brought out in that manner. But because it was necessary to do that, we had to improvise and make sure that we take her out of the water. So that has been done successfully. Now, apart from the shipyard, there is also the marine environment in which these ferries operate. It also contributes to the frequent damage because the coastline, both ends of the Banjul and Para, you have a prevalence of fishing canoes, and most of the time debris in the marine environment, like fishing nets and ropes, get entangled with this propulsion system, because these are the systems underwater that give the ferries thrust. So once they get entangled, it affects other components in the ferry, and usually that is the problem that affects the frequent breakdown. Apart from that, also there is the siltation in the estuary in Banjul, because the ferry, they have a very shallow draft, about 1.7 meters. So if the area gets silted up, usually, which happens in the estuary, because what happens in the hydrodynamics in Banjul is that the facility is within an area where, with the ebb and flow of the tide, current, sand or silt gets deposited around the shoreline. That's why it builds up and it affects the smooth operations of the ferries. And once the ferries run aground, you know, with that contact, it affects a lot of the engineering systems on board. Again, those concrete platforms also that were constructed in 2013 thereabouts for the older ferries that were brought from that Greek project also contribute towards adding up the silt. Because what happens is it's like a groin that is on the shoreline. It serves to attract silt. So that's why the siltation is very excessive at both Banjul and Vara. Banjul we could be able to do with our own equipment or contracting the dredging services, which we do at least once every 2 years. But because of the rate of siltation, you usually have to do frequent maintenance dredging. Bara is peculiar in the sense that it's rocky environment in terms of the topography. That's why the ferry has a very strict and narrow channel in which it navigates. So to dredge Bara, usually we have to use excavators from NDMA or from other sources to go to the shoreline and try to get the acquired depth, because our own dredger also has a draft of about 3.5 meters, so she cannot access the land at Bara where the dredging requires to be done. But usually we use other methods to ensure that there is sufficient depth to allow the ferries to be operating. But by and large, these are basically the problems with ferries, apart from the administrative ones as well. Because now there's bridges all over the river, so the ferries services, particularly at Transgambia, which was the most viable in our service in terms of the revenue generation potential, was lost to the bridge when the Senegambia bridge was inaugurated in January 2019. So with the bridges in Fatoto also and in Basse and also Sankule Kunda, most of the staff, at least about 250 of our 540 staff, virtually not been gainfully utilized because there's no more ferries in those areas. What we plan also going forward is once these new ferries are delivered, there is a plan to build a second landing bridge for operational safety, because if the committee may recall, about 3 months ago there was a near incident at Bara End when a bus nearly veered off the lander. Not that the ferry was not in operation, but this was a vehicle that was just parked idle. So when the ferry departed, the owner tried to put the vehicle on, and through assistance they were trying to at least shove it. So it veered off the lander and nearly tipped over into the river. So that salvage operation took nearly more than 2 hours, so the service was disrupted. So we thought that for operational safety, there is need to go for a second lander. If these things are done and then we get assistance from government also to unbundle our operations, like do a transition program for the staff that are in excess of our needs, get the second lander in place, the new ferries. It will be time to also unbundle and allow a private management into the ferry services. It will be more sustainable because the private services, the private operators are more attuned to having systems that would encourage more IT platforms to be used for revenue generation, for ticketing, for scheduling, and preventative maintenance. But by and large, apart from also the ferries having to buy fuel at pump price, pay for spare parts duty, and also the liability for corporation tax at GRA, which is a heavy financial burden. So these are basically the problems with the ferries. But we are hopeful that what we are doing now is a total overhaul to have a new turnaround strategy that would ensure that disruption in service would be a thing of the past. Thank you. I will stop for now and maybe allow the GM to provide more details, and then we are open to give any answers to any specific questions that may arise, because the whole team are here. They are more articulate when it comes to other technical issues. Thank you.
Thank you, MD. I don't think I would add much. Just some additional information, especially the figure. The exact 15% figure is euros 1,782,669. That is the GPA stroke Gambia government contribution on the AFDB financed new green ferry. I also want to say that the excess staff, as MD mentioned, is about, we would go through a process of doing a proper restructuring study to advise on the exact numbers and the category, the different categories of the numbers. But of indicative figures are that it would be around 250. And then the other information that needs to be given is that the ferry, before the bridging of the Senegambia Bridge, and even immediately after the bridging, we were running the bridge initially, though after government took it from us, and now they are working on a PPP arrangement, operations and management with Africa 50 arrangement. The challenge there with us currently is that the financing, we used to have a lot of CFA francs there, the foreign currency based revenue that we lost. Now it's mostly, we still have CFA, but mostly is Dalasi now. So that has been that has caused a major impact on our financial situation. And then finally, I think just to say that a good number of users of the ferry do not pay for the crossing. I think it's important. Even the recent disturbance or the attempted disturbance that we heard from our colleagues or relatives from Nyomi is mainly because those who were not paying for the ferry, the use of the ferry, are now paying for the use of the local canoes. That has been, that is another causal factor which we thought is important to share. I think overall, those are the things that I wanted to add. Colleagues, if I left anything, please. Thank you very much.
Hello. Thank you very much, GM. I think the MD and the GM have said it all, and ordinarily I wouldn't even want to speak after they have spoken. But I think they just left a very important factor, which is the issue of the tariff regime. If you know the ferry services very well, I mean, since it's delinking from GPTC, I mean, investment hasn't been a problem, because from 2001 to date, we have spent in excess of $1.5 billion in the acquisition of maybe about 7-8 ferries. And then upgrading of the way bridges, the passenger waiting sheds. So definitely investment hasn't been a problem. Not that ferry services have a lot of reserves, but most of the time we bank on GPA, Big Brother, to fund all these investment activities. But with all the investments, I mean, it's rather unfortunate that because of the tariff regime we have, you know, I mean, we're not able to turn around the fortunes of the company. So, I mean, if we should have a ferry services that is very viable, so in addition to having all these investment, we need to have a tariff system that would not only guarantee that we recoup our cost of operations, but at least we make some reasonable amount of profit for the proper maintenance of the ferries and for eventual replacement of the ferries. You know, as it is right now, I mean, the company really struggles. You spend $100 and you end up with revenue of about $65. You know, you look at the ferries, you know, in 2021, 10,000 liters of fuel was about 70,000. Today is 700 and something thousand. So that's about 1,000% increment. So when the cost of operation is going up astronomically 800%, 900%, and then your tariff is going up by 200-300%, so there is a serious imbalance. And when you have that, definitely you will not have the resources to maintain whatever you're giving asset to maintain properly. So that is why when you go to the stores of the ferries, you know, you see that the stores are virtually empty. You don't have the minimum spares required to even do maintenance of the ferry. Thank you very much. That's only what I wanted to add, the issue of not having the right tariff. Thank you.
PS, do you have anything to add on?
Thank you very much, Chair. Maybe just to reinforce from a policy point of view, the Director of Finance has mentioned some very important data that we need to really share. Like he said, if you observe over the years, there has always been a steady or a fixed fares on the Banjul-Bara crossing point. However, the expenses continue to be heightened, but the revenue generation was kept moderate all this while, and it is posing a very big challenge. But more importantly, recently there are a lot of things going around to say that government only acted when there was this problem of the ferry, the last ferry. Maybe it would be important for people to understand that when government secured this loan from the African Development Bank, they kick-started the process of the procurement. The bank has its rules that anybody relating with them must operate within those. And therefore, the procurement started well before now, before the signing in. At every given step of the procurement process, there are consultations and approvals are sought, and they must be granted for you to move to the other level. So this has been on. So it's just coincidentally that this happened, unfortunately, in the recent past, in which the procurement process was nearing completion, which led to the signing in. And the initial grant we had was only going to be able to cater for one ferry. But government, in its wisdom, thought perhaps having a second ferry, like MD has explained, would be more meaningful or useful or a wiser thing to do. That's why we have government has gone into the process of securing a second ferry additional to the grand ferry that we have. And the good thing is, it's our hope that since they are green ferries, they will be more efficient and effective this time in terms of the use, and not the fuel that is really a big challenge. If you look at the consumption, those are ferries that once they are on operation, whether they are in moving or not, they have to be kept on, and their consumption rates are really high. So I thought maybe I needed to just share that or clarify. As a medium-term approach, we should be looking at
what do we do with the present tariff? How long do we still need to continue maintaining this present tariff if we are really interested in making it more effective or efficient? Thank you.
Thank you, PS. I will now like to open the floor for any other questions for clarification from both sides.
Thank you very much, everyone. Again, I have a few questions. That is you've mentioned the progress of the rehabilitation of the Kuntakinte Ferry. So now, the 6 weeks promise has elapsed, and you said you're gonna fix the new engines as soon. What is the timeline to fix those engines? And then how soon the operation is going to start, as it is the warning issue of the day. My people are suffering. That is, the people of Lower Numi are suffering. And then the entire country, I can say. I have visited this site on 2 occasions. Definitely, there is work in progress. They're doing good. But we are eager to see this ferry operating. And then, talking about the tariff, okay, I understand. But with that, I think we need to put that down until we get good operation between Banjul and Bara, so that we will fulfill the need of the people first before talking about the tariff. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, MD, with the team and the PS too. I think we are all aware that the reason why we are here is about the bonding issue, which is about it's almost a ferry issue. It's almost it's a talk everywhere when people are talking about and complaining about the issue. I have the content I want to share with the PS, with the MD to help me. When it comes to Kuntakinte, we only know Kuntakinte came in, as you said, in 2017. Today is almost about 10, 11 years now. And then you mentioned in your speech that it was long overdue for maintenance. And then my question is, how frequent do you normally do your routine maintenance on these ferries? Because currently, like all the ferries that we have in the Gambia are not working. Which is something that we should always be thinking about, because we cannot allow everything to be at zero. At least one should have been currently in place if at all the proper management was, when management was taking the right direction, in the right step in the right direction. But it's going to be very difficult to explain that we have a fleet of 3-4 ferries in town, and currently not is in operation. I think we need to look at that one properly and then work on the maintenance aspect of it. You mentioned that there are new ferries coming, and part of the deal, there will be somebody who will be stationed here during the duration of the contract or the agreement. My question is, in the deal, is there any package or is there anything that is being part of the deal where we train our local people? Immediately people are gone, those people will be here to take charge. Because we cannot be waiting on A to come from Holland to come and do service A when we have our Gambians who are here. We think that when they are properly trained and given the opportunity to go out and learn, they can do better than them. Because we have Gambians who are very skillful and they know what they are doing. Is there anything in the deal that will definitely cover those areas? The other thing also with regards to the tariff also, because I think from here I'm giving my way. The tariff, it's good we increase. We have no problem in saying we increase. But after the increment, what are the people doing on this increment? We increase for everything. We increase for good service. We have been increasing, I think the last increment was when? Less than a year? Recently. And then up till now, the problem still continue. The only increase, I think, there should be a solution. We increase after the increment. We had A, B, C, and D. That's why we increase, and now we are seeing the results of increasing. But if this is not happening, the moment you increase, it makes no sense. It's good that you charge us good, but give us what we want. Because if you charge, and then definitely we feel that what you charge is definitely, I mean, that was the reward of charging, then nobody will complain. But if you ask me to pay $10 and still I'm not seeing what I'm supposed to get out of $10, it makes no sense. We are not saying no to charge, but give us what we want, and then we all good to go. The last one is about the bridge issue. My question is there any income coming from the bridge to you? Because you complain that since the bridge started, most of your staff are laid off. Is there any income coming to the ferries? Thank you.
Imam, before you come in, I just want to observe one thing. Let us be very specific and minimize our questions because you have other members to ask those questions. After Imam will give back flow to them to respond. But let us be specific and ask direct questions, please. Imam.
Yes, we have a clarity here. Let's ask what we no, but we are. It's an open day. We must be have a
No, I want
to receive ourselves. I only go out and start complaining.
It's not a matter of restriction. All of us, the same presentation, but what you captured, if you want to ask all, you are going to deny others asking. Ask a very important issue. If they respond and they are not responded, you can come up.
All right, thank you very much. To the managing director, GPA, I'm worried. If I'm right, I think there are 3 ferries, and you've mentioned saying Kunta Kinte since 2017 was never been opted onto maintenance. And now it has boiled down to the whole of service, the whole of 3 main ferries not to be an active service. Seeing the need of maintenance, what would you tell this committee, the fault behind these 3 main ferries not to be in performance? One, I may put this to you, whether it's a lack of expertise in terms of maintenance for 10 good years of any of those ferries, or financial hindrance in that. I want you to help us in that. The other thing also, you talk about Kanilai, where you talk of the engine is out of production. The idea is you're coming up to work on re-engineering of the whole of Kanilai. For that re-engineer, how much would be the cost of that? Connecting to what you will work on the African Development Bank and what you will also substitute of the green diamond ferries. Is it not prudent for you to hold that re-engineering and you shift that finance to the production of a new ferries? Final question is, functioning shipyard. You cannot get into ferry services without getting functioning shipyard. What is the main problem of that? Can you tell us what's the reason why it's still a challenge? GPA has been existing for years. Yes, still we have a functional problem of functioning CPR and also the costing that involve in your drainages and other issues. Thank you.
Thank you, MD. You can now react to the questions. Then from there, we take another batch of questions.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and thank you, Honorable Members, for those questions. On the timeline, we're in the 6th week. So this coming weekend is going to be the expiry of the 6 weeks, as was mentioned. And the tariff issues, we've taken note, but I think the last increment was in 2021. The last increment was in 2021. From the passenger was increased by, I think, $10, about 35%, from $25 to $35. On the Kunta Kinte, she's 7 years now. It was in 2017. And the frequent maintenance is not that it was not being attended to, because as I mentioned earlier, the engines were changed on Kunta Kinte in between this time. And there was plan to change the engines again. It's just that the procurement was delayed, because this engine should have been delivered at least 9 months earlier. Yeah. If the engines had arrived in time, we did not foresee that this situation, we would have found ourselves in this situation. With regards to the resident engineer, yes, there was one even in the previous contract with Kuntakinte. But the idea is the engineer is, that's why we call it resident engineer. He's going to stay on the ground and be working, reporting to work daily like any other staff. So while she's there attending to the ferries, that's what we do the knowledge and skills transfer, so that they will be training our staff on how to maintain this system. Because some of these technology with these ferries, they also keep evolving. So anytime there's a new product in the market, for example, we have the similar system at the port, where some of our tugboats, they also have the same system, but just that the operations are different. What we have in the port is, they call it the Diamond Maintenance Management System, DMSS, that they use every day. Is a computerized system that would do the diagnostics before you even put the engines on. It will tell you whatever needs to be done on the system. And because the systems are so programmed that the analogy I can give is like a light bulb. If it is supposed to serve for 6 months, in the 5th month, whether it's working or not, they will still replace it, because that's what is programmed. So that's the same thing we want to adopt on the ferries going forward. So that's the value of the resident engineer. And the shipbuilder is also in their interest to make sure that the ferry is optimally deployed, because it will generate revenue so that the loan can be repaid. So whilst the engineer is on the ground, that's the time they will do it's a hands-on training for our engineers, because they'll be working side by side with our engineers. So that's the whole idea. That's the time the training can be achieved, like a knowledge and skills transfer. On the side of the bridge income, yes, none of it comes to GPA. It's, it's all to central government. None of the bridge income, Senegambia Bridge, as it were, comes to GPA. And the honorable member also asked how all the 3 ferries came down at the same time. Well, it was not foreseen. As I mentioned earlier, if the engines that were procured were here 9 months earlier, at least Punta Kinte would have been improved her technical suitability to be providing service whilst we do the Kanilai. For Johe, because she also had an incident in 2022, I believe, late 2022. And it was a government decision to decommission Johe because of the frequent problems, because the systems on Johe are also shuttle systems that do use pump jets. So those ones are not very easy to maintain. So that's why government consciously took the decision that, look, let Johe be decommissioned. And in fact, the part of the engines, because 6 new engines, Caterpillar, were ordered. So part of the engines were going to be placed on Johe. So you see, that was the plan. But now, since the government decision came, and Johe has been decommissioned. With regards to the cost of the re-engineering versus 15% contribution, I think the total for the Kanilai will be around $480,000 US. It will be worth it to have Kanilai back in service with an improved technical suitability, because it will bridge the gap between the new ferries arrival. Because the new ferries, the first one will arrive 16 months after the advance payment has been made. The contract was just signed last week, so we're working with ADB to upload the documents on their client platform so that the disbursement can start. So in between 16 months, we need to have Kanilai and Punta Kinte both running. And the plans for Kanilai is 12 weeks after paying the advance payment, so that the supplier will work on doing the re-engineering. But we are hopeful that it will improve her technical suitability, and it will be in order to have Kanilai back in service by the time the new ferries are delivered. With regards to the functioning shipyard, you're right. The shipyard is such that it has a cradle and a slipway. So the slipway is what we're using with the air balloons, because the cradle has not been functioning for a very long time. Some of us who have been aware about the system at the dockyard is such that there's a ground anchor which is about 160 meters in the water that has not been accessed, as the records have it, since 1985. In between, the shipyard has changed ownership, and at some point, government invited a private operator called PF Marine from Malaysia. They came, they did not do the right investment. It went over to Masose again, back to another private investor. And then now government decided to have it back to the GPA. So we are very far in negotiations with a Spanish operator who is interested in the shipyard. But what is delaying the arrangement is, for them, they intend to use what we call synchro lift, like big metal frames that would go into the water and take the vessels out. It's bigger than what we need for our craft. So for them to realize that investment, they need part of the Navy yard and the Banjul Fisheries Jetty, which is bordering the shipyard, so that they can have the expansive space that is needed. So that is delaying our agreement with them, because the Navy land needs to be relocated, and part of the Banjul Fisheries Jetty belongs to government. It's just handed over to GPA for caretaker management. So to relocate those facilities would take time. But the other opportunity we have also in this port transaction that we're doing with a private investor, so the scope of the shipyard is included. As GPA, we had bought the equipment, the cradle, like the rails on which the vessels will sit if the cradle is mounted. We bought this equipment since 2014. So we had two options: to fix them on the rails and then try to use them. But the danger is that rail, which is 160 meters in the water, we don't know the extent of the damage. And this is resting on concrete platform. So our divers went down and they tried to fill it with their bare hands, but you could not tell what needs to be repaired. So the only option is to have what we call a coffer dam all around the cradle, to build like a, with metal sheet pipe, to take out all the water and the mud, so that the place will be completely dry. Then you can see the concrete and the rails, and then you can do the repairs. But that would be enormous. And there's even another advice that here is a sea. How can you keep it watertight, a void space in the middle of the sea for a long time? Because sheet piles, normally they are used for reclamation, because you cannot keep the water seeping in through sheet piles to have it completely dry. So, but these investors, they have the financial resources and the capability. So that's why we did it consciously, to include the shipyard as part of this port expansion project. So we are hopeful that whilst the investment is done in the port, the shipyard could also benefit from this investment, so that we can have it functioning for our own ferries, our own craft, and also for the industrial fishing vessels, because there's no functioning shipyard around the West Africa. So there's a big market even for us as a Gambia to have the shipyard functioning for us and for the market. It's a potential to earn revenue and also train a lot of youth, on skills that are required, for shipyard operation. So thank you. Yeah, maybe.
I think that.
Well, the Spanish investor. Yes, they are called Group or Rodman Group.
Yes, MD mentioned about the need to continue with the Kanilai rehabilitation. But just, I think that was important. And the bigger advantage of Kanilai over Johe is the capacity, the bigger capacity. And then the engines would be Hyundai Doosan, so it will be easier to maintain and cheaper to maintain. That's the big, and plus the propulsion system that we have on Johe is a pump jet, and that sucks in water and is very, very difficult to maintain and very expensive to maintain. That is why in the long run, I think we will continue with the decommissioning of Johe, but bringing back Kanilai as soon as possible. Thank you. That was only what I wanted to add.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, MD and Tamido, two MDs rather. What I just want to appeal is if honorable members ask questions, you have a lot of questions. So among you who can answer it clear, let the person go. Then you answer, and you also want to answer, please. Among yourself who has the technical whatever to answer that question, so that we are not going to be because there is another committee meeting 1:30, please. Among yourself who can answer that particular question clear, then let the person go ahead. Thank you very much.
Let's have second back. Hello? No, but you cannot. Okay, go.
Yes, I want clarification onto the engine, because what MD said, the Kanila engine is a heavy engine. as yes, and also out of production. Meaning it has to be another search for another engine that will be compatible. The fear factor is we want to be clear because we don't want to. There are a lot of allegations, saying some of the engines are bought not in line, are not whatever. It's not in the right perception. Sometimes you buy an engine 1 or 2 months, the third 4 months the engine is off. So are you sure with that out of production engine of Canela, what type of technicalities would you put in place to have it running to meet the status quo?
I think let's give it that.
Good morning. Actually, we've already did a search, and the engines has already been identified. We've taken into consideration all the characteristics of the previous engines, that is the MAN. Actually, they ceased manufacturing in 2017-19. But now we're using another brand of engines, that is the Dosan from the Hyundai factory, which is of the same quality and technicality, meeting all the requirements in connection to the propulsion. So already the engines has been identified, and all the technical specs, which all the diagrams had been forwarded, we've discussed, and we've seen the equality. So the engines has already been identified.
Okay, Honorable Fonyi Jarol, can you ask?
Thank you very much, Chair, for giving me the floor. Thank you, MD. And I've been listening to your responses, and then it looks like you have a vast knowledge of what is doing in your institution. And having said that, your responses, yes, some are adequate to me, some are inadequate. And this is also what I want to tell you. Something has happened that has never happened, based on my knowledge. Like the country going for almost 1 month, no ferry service. So, and I don't know when you came in as a managing director. And just what I found out, because since 2017, it looks like there was no routine maintenance. So I don't know the time frame of doing this routine maintenance to the engines, because even our own car, it has a number of mileage that when it covers that, it has to be have maintenance. And you look at again, you mentioned the challenges, that lack of functioning shipyard, which I agree. I don't know why you are able to make it function, or you are just coming in, or is it because of funding? And you said some we are not paying ferry services, but now they are paying. Why are they not paying? And then now they are paying credit to go. So you have to mention all the challenges so that we see how best we can handle it, because something has happened that has never happened. And then we are losing a lot of revenue, and then a lot of things. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, it would be of a good interest to know that MD has talked about the issue of lander, and there were monies spent to build new landers at Banjul and Bara, and since then the landers were not still been good. What is the problem? What is the problem with the building of those landers? Because still, when you are going, a vehicle has to still come and step on the landers for it to go down, for the ferries to be able to cost properly. What is the problem with still the landers having spent that money to build new landers, and still it is giving issues to your ferries? What is the problem? And the other thing also is, you've talked about, GM has talked about revenue generation at the bridge. Ferries has not been making profit for over 4 years. If I go through financial statement and management data of Gambia Ferry Service, Ferries is naturally giving service to people, but also making losses. If you go through your financial statements, Ferries has been making losses for about 4 years consistently. And Ferries and GPA are all national investment 100%. When you collect, it goes to either your operation or to the national coffers. And when Accountant General collects, it goes to the same national coffers. So the only problem here that we could look at, we had dealt with the staff issue, the redundancy issue, when Accountant General was coming, and we refer the permanent secretary to go with Ferries, including you, to go and settle that one, to see how do we remedy the redundancy issues. But when it comes to inefficiency in the service of the ferries, how does that revenue collection at the Senegambia Bridge and Basse Bridge has on the current issue that we are facing today, allowing 2 functional ferries to go down completely, and you are saying we never foresee that. What do you foresee in case if this happens? What do you foresee in case if this happens? Because you must foresee something. What do you foresee now? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair, for giving me the floor. Thank you very much, DG, and your colleagues and the PS. Thank you very much, Chair. Ferry service is a nightmare in this country. When we talk of ferry services, it's throughout the whole country. It is true that now those Banjul to Para, they are the ones suffering. But go to Bansan. Go to Bansan. Since colonial days, they are pulling. I could remember in 2021, there was a ferry, a motorized ferry, but that has taken out. And we are in this situation around Banjul, Bara. So now, my question is, what plans is the ministry going to do? Before we see ourselves in problem, I think we should know plan. What are we going to do in order to address those situations?
Thank you. Honorable Nyamina.
Thank you very much, Chair. Let me also join my colleague to thank GPA and Ferries. MD, I visited the port, and then I was fortunate to get to where they are maintenance in. It is Kunta Kinte. I went there twice, and then I was, at the beginning, I thought that the people who are doing the maintenance are foreigners. But later, I inquired from them, they told us we are all Gambians. And I was impressed that you have Gambian at that level, who can maintenance that ferry. I was definitely impressed. So this thing, when you talk about the issue of resident engineer, then what clicked into my mind is for you to train engineers. We have a problem as Africans. We don't manufacture. We don't manufacture. But whatever the manufacturer manufacture, we can repair it. So meaning, if you train, since the Gambia Port Authority and Gambia, one of our natural resources is the River Gambia, is our waters. So we should foresee people working in our waters at every time. So meaning we should train people to have engineers at our own level. So on the other issue, you have talked about the issue of the two ferries, that the new ferries that you are coming to procure. The other one, the PS, I heard him talking about loan. I heard you talking about a grant. So I don't know which is which, whether it is a loan or it is a grant. And then if it is any of the two, I think you need parliament approval for that one. For the second option, which look like a PPP, you can do it at your level. But when the issue of grant and loan happen, and then to my understanding, you have already get into the process, the signing until you are expecting the new ferries to be delivered, the two new ferries to be delivered in 16 weeks, 16 months, meaning you have at least gone a little far. So I'm concerned about that one, whether it is a grant or it is a loan. Actually, the agreement could have been tabled to Parliament. No, I'm not yet done. Then on the issue of, you also talk about privatize, inviting private investors, and then you are again working on procuring a new ferries. I don't know what is the distance between these two processes, because if you procure new ferries, that will cost you about 13 million euros, and then you have another private company who is coming to compete you, and then definitely you need to get back your investment. So if you invite a private investor who will be competing you, we have seen many of the PEC institutions having that problem. Gamtel, the reason Gamtel and Gamcel have a problem is because they have competitors in the market. This is, and then this one, before you Africell, anything they need today, when it comes to GSM equipment, the management can sit down in 24 hours, they can get the equipment. But Gamcel, if they need something, it will take them, before they finish the entire procurement process, it will take them months. That is my concern on this one. Then on the other issue, it will be very fair if we talk about ferries, and then I did not talk about mine. That is the crossing point between Kaur and Danko. You see, excuse me. No, it's all the same, Chair. We are talking about ferries. Yes, and it is a concern. It is definitely a concern. Wait, what happened to these ferries recently? Once happened to that ferry in Salum and Dangu. Sometimes it will be sailing in the water, then it got break down, then the blessing of the ferry will remain on the direction of the waves. This thing is happening. And the ferry was deployed there until today. There is no landing site. So for me, the moment my knee started spinning me, I know that Wame is coming, then I would realize that there is a problem in Yemen. The moment my knee started spinning me, you know, when you dislocate, anytime Wame is coming, your knee will be spinning. Anytime my knee spin me, I know that there is a problem, because there is a Wame, and landing is a problem.
Thank you.
And then definitely I need your blessing, so that at least that ferry will be fixed, the landing site will be fixed. Thank you.
This is not adjournment debate. Be careful. Senior man, can we allow the team to respond?
All right. Thank you very much, Chair and honorable members. Just for a point of clarification, the 13 million euros, like I said, from the AFPD is a grant, and that's what the MD said. In addition to that grant, that would only be able to do for a ferry. government in its wisdom thought having two ferries will be better, learning from all these reoccurrences that are happening around the ferries. So negotiations have been with the producers of the ferry or the builders to ensure that they work on helping us with a second ferry. Now, if that second ferry is being produced and given to us, certainly it has to be paid for. The relationship in which it's paid, whether you call it PPP or you call it any other name, at some point would need to be remitting monies towards the full-blown purchase of that. That's what I was talking about. So it's not a loan in its in the sense that you're looking at it like we're getting a loan from them to buy this. No, it's an agreement we're entering into, but that agreement has to be paid for at some point.
That is, I understand actually both you and MD, what you did. What I am saying, whether it is a grant or it is a loan, it needs Parliament.
That's noted.
Yes.
We will look at what has been done so far using the right authority, which is the Minister of Finance, of course. And if the needful is not done, then that will be worked on. But it's our proposition that might have been done. But it's noted. We'll get to that. Just on the issue of, you spoke about private ferry or the private operators. The honest truth is the government's long-term plan is to bridge Banjul Bara. That's the long-term plan. But let me say that that is not going to be a soon or a now issue because it's costly. The studies alone, so far so good. There is only one company, the Chinese company, that did a survey or studies, and this was back in 2013. And that data is held. To have a full-blown study on this stretch would cost us nothing less than between 5 to 10 million thereabout dollars, just the studies. And if I do the studies, for example, what is the guarantee that I'm going to be awarded a contract? So ordinarily, no investor would put in his funds in conducting that studies if he doesn't have the assurance of being awarded. So the only leverage that we can do as a government is to look at goodwill people like the ECOWAS is doing to conduct studies for us so that once we have those feasibility studies, we'll now use it to lure in investors who will be able to build that bridge, Banjul Bara, because it's costly. So if you look at that in times of duration, what is advisable is to fix these ferries that we have now and also to see whether the private sector can come in and support to ensure that this intermittent stoppage or interruption on the ferry services does not continue to happen in our country. That is the goodwill for the opening up to private sector investors in times of this crossing point. We are very conscious that government, when I say government, I mean GPA, is investing and therefore they need to invest to recoup their investment. So we are conscious about that. So it's not going to be an open such that they will suffer as opposed to the private investor. So I just wanted to make that clarification. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, for those questions. The first question was about the routine maintenance. It is always done, as I said earlier, new engines were procured for Kunta Kinte. Only that the procurement got delayed because this engine should have been here 9 months earlier. Then it was our expectation that this problem would not have happened because the engine should have been here and the necessary repairs would have been done. So that was the issue. For the Banjul shipyard, there was not that the investment is not available because GPA proper invested in the rehabilitation. It's a cradle we have at the Banjul shipyard, which all the equipment, the metal frames were procured already in 2014. But the problem was the engineering challenge on how to fix them. So not that there was no lack of investment, because we are the first beneficiary of the shipyard to be functioning. And it has been changing hands also through private investment. like what we know for certainty is the last time the Malaysians were here, BF Mari, they did not invest in the capital infrastructure that was required. They just came, if they had project to build maybe liquid storage tanks like a fuel station, they will do those ones, take the contract, and then never make any payments to government. So that's why government decided to hand it back to the GPA. With regards to the passengers paying ferries and now paying canoes, like GM said, part of the problems our brothers and sisters from North Bank, particularly Nyomi, were a little bit concerned, is that they have not been paying ferry service. Students, security officers, particularly in uniform, health workers, and people with special needs, they have not been charged ferry service, for fares for the ferries. So if the ferry is down for a longer period, an average family, for example, paying for a child to cross over to come to school, paying $100 each way, that's $200 per child, $1,000 per child per week. It's a challenge for less privileged families. So those were some of the concerns we noted. And in our engagement with them, we offered to at least reduce the hardship on them by getting the Alcalo of Barak, I think Alajify, something, to hire 2 of his canoes that will be providing a dedicated service at our own cost. So we will pay for those services just to at least reduce the hardship on them. So that was the allusion about the people not paying ferry service, because they are not charged. With regards to the new landers, what is the problem from Honorable Cisse? The project was about 700,000 euros. We paid for the equipment, but it was a management decision. At the time, yeah, at the rate at the time, I don't know the figure at the top of my head, but the euro value I know it's about 700,000 euros to fix both ends. But the project was much more than that. We decided as a management that look, we just need the metal frames to be delivered. Our own engineers on the ground will do the installation, and the hoisting system and the counterweights were part of it. But we did not go for that project. So we decided that we could do it on our own. So that's why we have this challenge. But right now there's a tender in the local papers to invite engineering firms who can have a solution to that. But I will get the technical director to elaborate more on that. But it was a management decision, and if anything, we have to take responsibility for that. Because we could have gone for the full project, which would involve changing the motors that would assist in the hoisting system. So, but we believe that only the metal frames, if they are supplied, we can do the rest. But it turned out that it did not happen that way. So that's why you have that situation where vehicles will climb on top of the ladder to apply some pressure to have it down so that there is an access. With the redundancy exercise, the one that Honorable Cisse you mentioned was only dealing with the staff that were needed by the Accountant General to be transferred from ferries to work under the bridge. But the staff that are affected by the whole of the bridge operations are numbering around 250. So that has to be addressed through a restructuring exercise. And we know that in HR, you cannot just call people to a meeting and tell them there's going to be a severance. Then that will be the end of the meeting. So what we decide to do is to have a restructuring plan where people will be allowed to transition to something better. Our strategy is people that are maybe close to retirement, people that are of ill health. If only those are targeted to begin with, at least 20% or thereabouts of the problem will be addressed. Because we know unemployment in this country, you cannot have to compound the problem by giving 250 people, out of job. It will affect their socio-economic well-being and of that dependence. So this restructuring plan, we believe, is more responsible. And if it goes to a situation where, for example, a gentleman has to be paid $1 million, for example, he can have a payment plan to allow them to go into other sources of income to ensure there is a source of earning. Otherwise, you give them that bulk money, 5 years down the line, you're compounding their problems. So that's the plan that we intend to implement. With regards to what was foreseen or not foreseen for all the ferries to go down at the same time, I had explained earlier, I would only like to reiterate that it's a management responsibility that the engines were not delivered on time. If they were delivered on time, this situation would not have arisen. On Bansang, we don't have any information that the motorized ferry is down, unless maybe technical director can. No, sorry, the dog ferry. The motorized ferry is being repaired, and I believe it's Nyani. Nyani been changed now to go to Bansang. But the director will shed light on that. There are plans to have the motorized ferry in Bansang. Because the director will confirm. But we were there on track just last month, myself, the GM, and the whole of the board. And we went to visit all of these sites, and we saw firsthand what was on the ground. Yes. The resident engineer to train our engineers, yes, that is the plan. Because these systems keep evolving. And PS has touched on the ADB grant and the loan. If it is necessary that we miss some of the governance steps, engage Ministry of Finance so that the needful will be done. But the loan is direct supplier credit, GPA, because the shipbuilder would take a loan to finance the shipbuilding contract. So we pay over 5 years. On the Negma ferry, well, we don't believe they're a competitor to the ferry. If all these interventions we request from government are done, ferries will be viable. So they will just provide an alternative service, and the choice will be now available to the public to utilize whatever service. But for us, we believe that we are a government agency and we are providing public service. And we don't anticipate a situation where a private operator would operate the same tariff level as us. So we are hopeful that it's not a private sector that is going to keep us out of business. We want to aim to do what we should be doing right and make sure that our service is efficient. On the Kawur Dankungu or Jakoto crossing point, we've been there as I. Yes, we've seen the situation firsthand because, like I said earlier, I was there on track just about a month ago, myself, the GM, and the whole of the board of directors. And that particular crossing point, we went oversight to Jakarta and we saw the water low at the landing site. So immediately, with the assistance of the PS, we got the contractor that is mobilized to do the government projects on Sierra North, a gentleman, something Sanya. So actually, I did speak to him on the phone, and he visited my office. We thought that we could just do a 20-meter to have the access level, but he advised otherwise. So now we're doing a full-blown project to make sure that the access road is complete. Not only there, but there's another one, I think, from the Barajali to Walikuda, the other end. Yeah, so we're doing that end also. So this all came out as a result of information we did when we were on track. So thank you. Maybe technical director can just add on the technical issues.
Okay, to start with, let me just say with routine maintenance, I just want to note down certain things. Since Kunta Kinte came, 2 interventions had taken place. The engines are to run 8,000 hours and then either completely overhauled or replaced. In 2019, that is 2 years down the line, Kunta Kinte started operation. The engines were overhauled completely. And why the overhaul? We just choose, we also need to have some training for engineers. That's why we took that trend, invited engineers from Caterpillar, Netherlands, to come and work with our engineers to do the overhaul, which has improved a lot and transferred knowledge to our engineers. This has prompted for the purchase of these engines, because at the end of the day, when we do that analysis, the overhaul was almost like buying a new engine. That's why it's prompted to buy these new engines, because we anticipated the 8,000 hours to reach. But because of the delay, that's why we are into this situation. But to speak, routine maintenance has been ongoing. Yes, as I said, the CPR has been a challenge, because you cannot just do the engines and you don't also do the hull. Because with those marine routes, there is a lot of resistance to engine power. And it almost takes 10 to 15% of your power if it is not well cleaned. So there is a lot of resistance. In fact, 40% from rectification, 40% of your engine power has to go to overcome the resistance built by the marine routes. So you see how difficult it can be. Even if you had put in these new engines, without this complete it wouldn't, the people might just think we've not done anything. But it is a challenge. And we thank God, at least it has been docked, we cleaned the hull. Then now for the Bansang ferry, my gentleman, Bansang Ferry, I can tell you today we going to start the engine because it was brought here to do a overhaul. We did the welding works for the underwater, and we procured an engine for it. As we speak today, it is going to be started. We do some trial runs before we send it back to Bansang. So it's in consideration.
Thank you, Director. Can we proceed? Honorable Njai, come with your question.
I think the MD has said the Kawur is the landing site. And
Honorable Njai, Central, Banjul Central.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I will share most of the highlights that my honorable colleagues have put through. Mine is much of a concern, but I just want to interlink things and then maybe come up with my question. Because from what we've gathered so far, the Kanilai ferry was supposed to go through the engineering, and from what you guys have mentioned, most of the engines are obsolete, meaning that the institution was aware of this thing. And then later on, from your statements also, we were able to gather that the Kunta Kinte as well was due for withdrawal, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it's understandable. PS, you made mention during your deliberation that through the ADB, we were able to secure something to be able to have a hybrid ferry. And from that negotiation, actually, government deemed it necessary to commission another ferry that will help bolster the system to increase service delivery. My question would be, why now? Because the public outcry also, I am speaking on behalf of the public. The outcry is genuine because you are the technocrats, you are the technicians. These are all things that should have been foreseen years ago. Things had to get worse for us to understand that we have to have all these things in place. Let alone even commissioning a new ferry to be able to add it to the system to increase service delivery. And this has an overall ripple effect on the entire service system. Because, for example, if you talk of tariffs, for example, the tariffs has to be constant because value for money is not realized. So the tariff has to be constant because people are not receiving value for money. And the honorable member made mention here, this is a public enterprise and your responsibility is to pay dividend, is to have revenue, upon running revenue, constant revenue to be able to cater for other needs of the institution. So would it be an ideal assessment to say that the institution has really failed in this aspect? Because all these things are interlinked, and these are things that, because part of being a technocrat is to be able to foresee things. Let's say, for example, the president was able to commission a new ferry. Why was this not done like 10 years ago, 5 years ago? It has to get worse for us to realize that these things are needed, and they are needed direly. So I think most of the time when we hear the public outcry, yes, there are certain technical issues that maybe everyone won't be able to understand. But I think the outcry is genuine, that the institution should have been able to make do with all these things before things had to get this worse, whereby all 3 ferries are unavailable and people have to look at other areas of intervention to be able to go about their daily needs. So yeah, basically it's a contribution, but also why now, basically, the timing of things. My question is, why didn't the institution oversee or, have an oversight function whereby these things should have been known to be able to come about? Why is it happening now? And why are we taking all these measures when things get worse?
basically. Yeah.
Honorable Lowasalu.
Thank you, Honorable Co-Chairs, and the Permanent Secretary and the MDs. First of all, I will ask the MD and where people's thought is. Members have said a lot about these very issues, but for me, my bottom conclusion will be whether there is no sabotage in the system. Because doing this work for decades now, allowing the ferries to run with one engine, two engines, you say we don't foresee this to happen. I guess my bottom conclusion that there is a sabotage on the system that is working in that ferry. That's my, maybe he can come over. Yes, because we cannot afford to see our working place things happening like this to happen. We have to allow the president to chip in to address the situation. No. I myself as that supporters, unless you clear that that person from your end. And the second thing is, I wrote a parliamentary question in April 2023, asking for these engines, because I make my investment when I don't come to the office, I don't go to anybody, but the people down there. And when I wrote this parliamentary question to the minister, the minister responded that six engines are on the way coming from Senegal. And again, there is a two ferries that will be programmed for 16 months. And just recently, on your answer, you said the contract was signed just last week. Where is the breakdown of this information? Because Minister informed the plenary from April 2023, 16 months to date. And now you said to us last week this was approved. Then there is the communication barrier from the ministry to press, which I don't think that will help. The last thing I will ask, the member Nyamina said he went to the where the Kunta Kinde is paired. I went with him, but then the idea that we were taught it was Senegalese that are working there. Unfortunately, they are Gambian, with which we are so proud. But MD, the situation down there also, you need to revisit those people who are working. Those people who are working there. You know, if somebody is rendering a good services, you have to upload that part to do better. Because if you even check their dress code, there's no protect gears that they have. I asked them, there are many things that we should do, you know, allow them to go for studies, you know, to get more knowledge on what they are doing. But hiring people, you know, doing things, you understand. In fact, we are told sometimes if they ask people to come for outside, to come and work there, they will just come one day, they will not able to do it because they are not familiar with the thing. Because they can do it better than those people. I guess you, as the MD, try to encourage them
by, give them the good services and their need that we need. Thank you very much.
Opposal, Jokadu, Loasal.
Thank you very much, co-chairs, and thank you very much, the team that is here before us. And I'm very sorry for coming late. I was in another engagement. Now, co-chairs, my question is pertaining to the siltation that they talked about between both in Bara and Banjul. Now, to me, though I'm not an engineer, but I know the propellers of these ferries should be propelling in waters, but not in muddy or in clay. I think only that can cause problem to these ferries. And they have already identified what is causing the problem. That is those new landers that were built there for years now. Those landers are there, instead of them providing service, they are hindering service. Now, my question is, what are your plans on those landers so that you can at least remove them there, because they are causing a problem to the system. They are there, they are not useful, and they are causing problem to these ferries. So what are your plans so that you can at least remove them there, so that everything can run smoothly? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, MD.
Before MD comes, I want to shed some light on honorable members' concern with regards to what the honorable minister might have said during the preliminary. I want to re-echo again that the process of acquiring this ferry started long before 2023. In fact, it was only in December 2022 that the African Development Bank gave approval to the entire suggestion of this grant. But it started well even before the December 2022. So the minister might have informed the assembly that plans or work is at progress to procure two. But that will take time before the finalization of that procurement process, which will lead to the signing which was held to it, just as a point of clarification. And then further to that, I think Honorable Member for Dankunku made a very good observation here. One of the lessons we should all learn from all this procurement issue is, which he used the example of Gamcel. If Gamcel wants to buy a software, for example, it takes them 6 months, 1 year to decide, because they are tied up into the government procurement regulations, wherein that does not happen with the private sector. And it's the same with Gambia Ferry Services, it's the same with the ports, it's the same with others. So I think that should be a learning point for all of us as a country, as a people.
Yes, can I observe? That one is taking care of the 2023 procurement bill that we have enacted. There is an emergency procurement for the state-owned enterprises.
I am aware because I read the document. I'm aware because I read the document. But let's read it again and see whether it has been enhanced as we wanted or as you are suggesting. Let's do that. Because I'm flagging this because the auditors, when they come to these are things that they look for. And once they flag it, you the procurement authority or agency, you are in trouble, particularly the accounting officers. So these are some of the things that hinder us. So that's why I want to make reference to the Honorable's recommendations. That we need to look at this. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. Just in addition, what has been granted on this new procurement regulation is authorization to do our own procurement without going through GPPA for every step. What they do post-procurement audit. But it's still the same processes in terms of request for quote and tender. So it will still take the same time practically. Honorable Njai's question, why now? It's not now, as Pierce has mentioned. African Development Bank gave the approval in December 2022 for the grant. But it has to go through a process for the procurement. And for the bank processes for every step, you have to seek no objection to proceed to the next stage. And the procurement starts with the issue of a GP and what we call general procurement notice. After you have to do a specific procurement notice, do the tender, do the evaluation, and then seek their no objection. It's a coincidence, but it's not by design that problems happen and then government is now coming up with solution. It's just a mere coincidence. And why now also is because the engines got delayed in delivery. And as I said, we take responsibility as management. Because this engine should have been here 9 months ago, whilst we plan for the rehabilitation of the ferries in anticipation of the new ones. So that's why I said it's not by desire, but it just happened the way it happened. And we take full responsibility for that and apologize for the disruption in service. With sabotage, it might be difficult. We are in public service, and to say that one would willingly go and wreak havoc to an engine would be difficult. But at times we do have the odd situation where people have been found wanting, and they have been duly processed in terms of the service rules we have, or if it is a criminal offense, I mean, that one is against the state. But what is more proactive as a management is to keep people in key positions of responsibility that you can have trust that they will deliver. I think that's more proactive, and that's the management strategy that we've been taking all along. For the minister to have said in April that it's 16 months to deliver the ferry, maybe it may have been misconstrued, because what I may believe he could have said is that it will take 16 months to deliver from date of signing. And not only date of signing, because the contract you can sign a date, but then it becomes effective when you start paying. So these are all the challenges. Myself and GM, that's what we've been working on these days. That now that we've signed the contract, it can only be effective when the shipbuilder sends in an invoice for advance payment, then you pay. Then that's the time the 16 months will start counting. And then the staff training at the Banjul shipyard. Yes, we're aware about their complaint, but it's on record that the GPA is a good employer when it comes to HR. The gentleman there, the manager, is just back from 3 years training in Ghana, and is highly qualified. And also in our recruitment, we make sure that the basic skills that are required, according to our scheme of service, that's the entry point. We're not denying the fact that staff would want more in terms of incentives and welfare. But the thing about the protective clothing, if there is anything that we may be found wanting, we will address it, because they are all provided with protective clothing. Cannot subject your workers to harsh environment without being protected. If anything, the management will be found liable. Siltation, yes, at the landers is the platform that is causing the problems more and more because of their presence. One of the mitigating measures is to do dredging frequently. And there's an opportunity for one of these new operators that has been given license to operate a private ferry, Negma. I think it's one of the companies that's doing construction work around near where you had, yes, after Radio City. Yeah, so they plan to bring floating pontoon and attach them onto the platforms, the concrete platform, so that their ferries would operate. They intend to bring ferries. So we've been in discussion with them last Thursday. So there's a possibility to have them, whilst they're using the concrete platforms, to also dredge the area so that they will maintain the adequate depth that is required. Thank you.
Thank you, MD. Let's take the next badge. Starting with Majority Leader. Welcome to that.
Thank you very much, Co-Chair, for giving me the floor. I've listened very keenly since morning, and I am compelled to salute your positive response. And thank you for service to nation or to country since this thing has started. I must commend your proactiveness and your service to issue. And my concern is we're here to discuss, to have a solution to avert reoccurrence to what had happened. Of course, my doubt is now clear. Already there is a proper plans in place, and you have already foreseen this engine being worn out or not fit for purpose, and that is why led or push you to protect its engine. But of course, one cannot be beyond your control, procurement, and you have no control over the date of shipping or its arrivals. I've listened to you. You've really captured very interesting part. in as much as the committee is really pushing GPA to pay dividends. But you have also rectify me if I'm wrong. It's a private arrangement in terms of ticketing, in terms of controlling times of operation and arrangements of trips, and also ticketing, so that there is less interface, there's less interference in terms of cash to hand approach, which is very, very commendable, and if that is really respected, I think it, providing the efficiency and effectiveness that the committee is asking for. In the deliberation also, the committee is also, I have said no room for tariff increasement. But of course, on the other hand, you're asking for efficient service delivery. This has to pay on merit base. I think if you do your studies well, and the service should come in straight. There is no point of there is no harm in increasing service if it's worth it. So basically, based on expert advice, we should be able to make sure that we justify those moves. Lastly, is the issue of communication. I think you have to really step up your communication, communicating people, improve on those areas. And lastly is the issue of the staff that are there. How do you also try to make them available to have their way in the private sector arrangement, and haven't had experience on the job, 10, 15, 20 years on the job, to see how best they could serve as a platform for them to be accepted in any PPP arrangement you might have had in the future with any private company. So I think without that, you've already allayed my fears. And clearly, to me, we must salute your courage and the effort that you have done in advancing, in addressing the situation of the country. It's unfortunate, but with these measures, it will be averted in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Majority Leader, the head of government business in the parliament. But here, no question, it's good. Next is Honorable Latri Kunda.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Chair, for giving me the floor. My first intervention will be with regards to some honorable members mentioned about the redundancy at the ports. For me, my advice would be nobody should go out of work. Anybody sitting here, nobody want to go out of work. So just make sure you restructure. Instead of telling people go home, you are not needed here. Restructure your processes, your institutions, and make sure nobody go out of work, please. We all agree ferries are not purchased like car, where you will go to the market, buy it, and come and put it on the road to ply it. There must be feasibility studies on the shallowness of your river, the deepness of it, and every other environmental conditions. Do we actually do this thoroughly before we purchase ferries for our rivers? Now, my other intervention will be how much in revenue each ferry make every month. How much is Kunta Kinte makes every month? How much Joy or how much the other ferry, each of them every month? Okay, my last intervention will be Honorable PS and MDs. With all what you have said and with all what the honorable members have said, what I deduce is there is a routine maintenance problem, number one. Number two, I don't want to say leadership problem, that is too personal, but there's administrative problem as well. So I think we need to adjust into all of that. PS, you mentioned about the cost of feasibility studies for this corridor. I don't know can we work around it on EPC basis, whereby the contractor will do the feasibility studies, do the procurement process, and do the construction instead of splitting them. Then if we float it out there, then the contractors will build on that. They will have to do the feasibility studies. They have to do everything and give us the brick instead of splitting the feasibility studies from the actual construction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Cham. Serakuna.
Thank you very much, Chair. And my question would be, will the buying of the 2 new ferries address the long-term challenges without the existence of a fully fledged CPR? That is one. And I need some clarity here with the loan here. Is it government taking an on-lending loan on behalf of Paris? And will this not increase the burden to the national debt as well? Because we understand those are the institutions that government have been taking loan, on lending loan for, without them paying back. So we need some clarity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Kiang, you need some clarification. Just be precise.
Right. Honorable Chair, the issue of lenders is what I want clarification on. I think MD, has always been very, efficient in your work. But for the issue of lenders to say it is the fault of the management, it's not simple for that handsome money. It's more than $50 million. It's more than that. To say it's just management fault. We need to know what went wrong with that huge investment, to provide something that will create efficiency. But instead, it creates us more problem now. Because one ferry is far more expensive than the cost being spent on the rehabilitation. And now that is damaging our ferries slowly until, because it is also a contributing factor. So to me, we need a clear explanation to see how, that procurement went, how the contract went, what was all the problems, so that we can be able to address, because you are trying to go into another contract again to have an efficient service. And you have spent a huge amount of money on another contract and it went bad. So we need to know that we need to correct the past in order to do something well today. But if that is not done, Honorable Chair, just to say it's management fault and you don't know what went wrong, it's too simple.
Thank you. This is going to be the final question. From there, we proceed to Banjul Bara Bridge, where the PS gives us a glimpse of what we are expecting, but we'll give you the opportunity to elaborate on that and have a final discussion, because we're coming to the tail end of it. But finally, before we go there, I just want to add 2 questions to the overall. One is in connection to the 6 week, which is almost at the tail end of the expiry date. When I want you to be precise, when are these ferries going to be fully functional? To give us a precise date, at least, even with all this hurdle, just try to come up with that. And the other issue, I talk about the engineer, the in-house engineer that is coming in. What is the contract period? Because he cannot be here up to eternity. I expect the contract must have an end, so that our people that are learning from him can take over the responsibility. Again, the issue of the 2 ferries, the issue of the 2 ferries upon completion, when you come to its operation, what model are you using? Is it going to be in a PPP arrangement, or is it going to be entirely under the responsibility of ferries and GPA? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, honorable members, for those questions, which are all very pertinent. To start with the HR issues, as Honorable Co-Chair rightly said, that's why we call it restructuring. In HR, what is now desired is to have what we call a social management plan, because we understand that even to convene a general staff meeting to say the agenda today is about redundancy, but rest assured you will not have anybody attending that meeting, because people would not like to lose their jobs. They want to keep it over. So that's why we said we call it a restructuring exercise. And the first strategy to employ is to target those that are maybe within a 5-year retirement plan. If you offer them a package, those ones definitely they will leave because they are close to retirement. Then you have another category who may be not in good health. That other category, if you target them, then you can have maybe at least about 20% of the problem already addressed. Then now you look at the effective staff, who maybe some they are what we call departmental misfits, maybe they are in the wrong department, or some people need to be redeployed or reskilled. So those are the things that we will employ, so that people will, now those that are even effectively leaving, you will not give them that bulk money to leave, because you are going to compound their problems. You will try to see whether you can have what we call management buyout for certain services that we contract out, that they can be given to, or alternative employment that happens within the port privatization project. So your concerns are well noted, Honorable, and this is the strategy that we're going to employ. With regards to the studies done before ferries are procured, these ferries are built to design. We give the specifications of the ferries that are built because of our environment. So be rest assured that all the necessary studies are done. That's why you have this type of ferry, double-ended with a shallow draft. The revenue per ferry, I will defer that maybe for the GM to take note, and as well as the routine maintenance. What is the problem? Maybe the technical director can come on that again, but he had already given the explanation that is always happening. On the EPC for the bridge, I think you reserve that for the PS as you write this in. And whether the two ferries will address the challenges going forward without the shipyard, no. The shipyard is a scope in our port privatization project. So what we intend to do with the investor is to have the shipyard rehabilitated and modernized as a component of the port expansion project. So it's within the scope of the port privatization project. So it's very fundamental because of the numerous advantages it has to address our own craft, the industrial fishing vessel, and also create employment for Gambians in terms of the skills that are going to be generated at the shipyard. Because they don't only do ship repair, but there's machining, carpentry, a lot of other skills that are surrounding the shipyard in terms of the trade, all inclusive. And then for government of the Gambia on lending loan, no, it's a supplier credit arrangement. It's between the Gambia Ports Authority and the shipbuilder. That's the same model that was used to procure Kunta Kinte. What happens is we'll come to an agreement with the shipbuilder, pay up to 20% advance, and then the balance will be repaid over a 5-year in biannual installment. So it's the GPA that is contracting the loan without any contingent liability on government. On the management fault for the ferry landers, yes, Honorable, you are right. The answer may be simplistic, but management is continuity. It's not about who is the present occupant. So why I say it's a management decision, because at the time the procurement was done, we had two options: to go for a full package, that is supply of the equipment and also the installation and doing the counterweight and the hoisting system. The technical director can elaborate more on that, but we were confident because our technicians would advise the management. So that's why I said management taking responsibility, because we are all part of the decision making. If you are comfortable that if you just supply the crane, I mean the land, the metal pieces, our own engineers can do the installation and do the hoisting system. And that's where the contract stopped. But the contract was far more than 700,000 euros. To have the supplier come and do the hoisting system would have cost more than €1 million. So we are trying to save costs, and also with the confidence that we can do it ourselves. That's why there is this problem. That's why I said it's a management problem, not that there was any misprocurement. We had the option to go.
Hello, Honorable. Honorable Caesar, please. Honorable, don't allow this back and front, please. Allow him to exhaust.
Honorable Chair, this is not back and forth. Okay, Honorable Chair, sorry for that, on your permission. Thank you. MD, you're confident to allow a certain process to go, which means you have, let's say, somebody gives you an assurance that we will be able to do, and they list A, B, and C. You should be able to assess those checklists and say, will you be able to do A? Will you be able to do B? Will you be able to do C? That assessment should be done to ascertain whether that will be able to happen or not. And I think you get what where I'm trying to arrive at. When they assure you that you'll be able to do this, it's a responsibility of the board and the management to definitely assess that those assurances that were given to you, you assess them. You weigh whether they will be able to do that or not before you allow the process to continue.
Thank you. Go ahead, MD.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Cisse. I fully understand the question. That's why I say we take responsibility as a management, that we were confident that the hoisting system, our team on the ground should be able to do it. Because what would involve was to have a motorized system. The procurement even involved the hoisting system, the lifting system being operated by remote, if it was installed properly. So there are two counterweights that are on the side of the lander, which has some load bearing, and it is attached to a motor that is run by, and the police had to be. Anyway, the technical director will explain the mechanism, why we were confident that we could do it ourselves. But it only turned out that we could not. So I'm just doing the disclosure as the way the things happen. So that's why I say we take responsibility as management for having said that we can do it when it turned out that we could not. So that's really what happened. But there's a tender in the papers currently to invite an engineering firm to come and address that deficiency in the landing bridge. But going forward, we intend to also go for a second lander for operational safety. And learning from the lessons of this one, we'll just go for a full project with a knowledge and skills transfer for sustainable operation and maintenance. So that's why I said we take responsibility. On the understanding that management is continuity, it doesn't matter who is there presently. Because if decisions are made, they are made in the name of the TPA. That's what
let's go to the next question.
And then the 6 weeks to give an assurance when the ferry will go down. I can only give an expectation. The ferry is going down tomorrow, and we go about with the engine installation. So all being well, we should be good to go within the 6 weeks that was announced, and that is this coming weekend. Yes, the engines can only be installed when the ferry is floating, because these are heavy equipment, and a lot of equipment will also be used on board, and you cannot do that while the ferry is resting on wedges at the shipyard. It will not even be safe. And some of the shuttle systems, they go with the engine installation. Whilst you're installing the engine, then the shuttle system, the propulsion systems have been done, and for those ones, the engineers are going to come, because you fix and then you test, fix and test, and then after you do the trial run. All being well, we are hopeful that within the 6 weeks, as was announced, the ferry would start, resume operation. The resident engineer is also, according to the contract, is three years. But we would engage and see the effectiveness, if necessary, to prolong it beyond the 3 years, at least to cover the period during which the ferry is still on a supplier credit, just to make sure that the ferry is optimally available to provide the service, so that you can generate revenue to pay back that loan. PPP with new ferries, yes, that's the way forward. Not losing sight of the fact that it's a public service. But if all these efficiency measures are put in place, we believe that the ferry should be able to be self-sustaining in terms of the revenue to cover the cost of operation and improve the service. Thank you.
MD, can we request for this contract document?
Yes, in fact, we have brought copies in anticipation. Thank you. Yeah, maybe GM just on the revenue, and then maybe the technical director on the lander and the routine maintenance. He asked about revenue per ferry. Maybe.
Director of Finance, revenue per ferry.
Hello. Prior to the grounding of the ferries, the company was making about $25 million every month. It varies, yeah, no, not per ferry, but like for the whole month, for the entire ferry operation. So from $20 million to about $30 million. But then it depended on the number of ferries you have running, and then the state of repairs of the engines. So at best, maybe about 30 million every month. Worst case scenario, it could go down to 20 or even lower than 20 million a month. But how much you make in terms of revenue, yes, is very important, because somebody might hear that the company makes 30 million and you think it is very good, but you need to look at the other side as well. So if you're making 20 million and your cost of operations is 42 million, then it's not good. And to be honest, that is why, ferry services were in this sort of like predicament today. Like he said, that the company the past 4 years, has been making losses. I don't know whether I would surprise you to tell you that it's even longer than that. From 2001 to date, the company has been making losses. except for 2018 when it made a profit of about $60 million. But initially from 2001 we were making 8 million, 7 million, 10 million, but it was going up as the cost of our operations was going up, and then we were not having compensation as far as the tariff is concerned. So that is why today, with all the problems that we are talking about, landers, civil works, the ferries, spare parts, buying engines, and all whatnot, a company that is generating losses in the tens of millions of dollars, you will not have the reserves to maintain your ferries properly. You will not have the reserves to replace the ferries when you're supposed to replace them. So that is why even after using these ferries until to a point where they've served their economic useful life, it's not like we can dip into our reserves and buy. So all we do is we turn to GPA, and GPA takes a supplier credit facility to buy the ferries. Or maybe if we're lucky to have like a grant from the AFDB, so that's the only way we can buy. But ordinarily, that should not be the case. We should operate and generate enough revenue to pay for all our operating expenses and even make savings for the maintenance of the ferries and eventual replacement of the ferries. But this is not happening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You want to be precise, please?
Yeah.
And the final one, huh?
Thank you, Chair. That's to the MD and then may possible the payers with regards to the 16-month issue. During the signing, immediately after the signing, there was a press release that it's going to be 16 months. And then if the MD is saying that the 16 months starts, to my understanding, immediately after the first disbursement to the contractor. When are you expecting to do that disbursement to the contractor? When are you expecting to pay that payment to the contractor when the 16 months will start?
Very much.
Thank you, Honorable. As I said earlier, contracts has a signing date and an effectiveness date. Yes, it's effective when you make that first installment payment. Now the expectation is, this is African Development Bank. We're working with them. What they have is all the contract documents and the disbursement requirements, they have to be uploaded on what they call a client platform. So as I was working in with GM, we were strategizing on how to call up an emergency board meeting this Thursday to invoke the GPA side of it so that the shipbuilder, when he sends the invoice, even if the ADB payment date delays, we would have had approval from our board to engage and conclude on the terms of the supply credit so that the GPA can also pay its portion for the advancement so that at least work will start on the ferry immediately. It is in our interest to ensure that we're coming to end of April, hopefully in May, in the first 2 weeks in May. If we achieve that target, then we start now counting the 16 months. Yes.
MD, thank you so much for all the response. I think we've had enough and it has been a healthy discussion. And let's go to the second item of the agenda, that is the bridge between Barra and ferries. PS, we want you to elaborate on this because you have already gave us a glimpse about what is entailed.
All right, thank you very much, Chair and honorable members. Let me say that government has been receiving very unsolicited proposals with regards to Banjul Barra Bridge for many years. There are a lot of individuals, companies, groups that have expressed interest in building the Banjul Barra Bridge. However, one of the obstacles or the stumbling blocks is one to have a detailed studies or feasibility studies of that bridge. And if you look at what is involved in terms of the finances that is involved, not only in the feasibility studies, but even the general construction of the bridge itself, it is very, very high. So until recent, the ECOWAS bloc has expressed interest in supporting government to do the feasibility studies. And what led to this is, you may recall, or some of you may know that there is an ECOWAS highway that is to be built across the ECOWAS countries called the ECOWAS corridor. As a result of that corridor, it will serve them good if this bridge is constructed. And that's what led to their willingness to support that studies that I said earlier on. So they want to link the bridge to that ECOWAS corridor, the Abidjan-Dakar corridor that runs down. So as a country, we thought it, initially there were thoughts around where do we allow this corridor pass through? We were trying to look at various options. But the initial options that were I marked were realized that there will be too short distances if we should use them. As you may know, there are some countries that benefited in hundreds of kilometers, if not thousands. In terms of size of the Gambia, our width is very small. So we thought it wise that what we can do is to look at how can we maximally use the